Have you ever been in a race?
Not on purpose.
Have you ever been chased by the police?
Like running for the bus?
Is that a race? Running for the bus?
Yeah, I'm racing the bus.
Did you run for the bus a lot?
Um,
Or can you not remember that far back?
Far back to what?
Taking a bus. Like,
A
when's the
long
last time?
ago.
I remember one of the guys when I worked at the care home. One of the guys, his favorite saying was, "I can take a bus, but I can't take your abuse."
Oh, good morning.
Oh, good
Welcome
morning.
to the Ashes to Rubies conversational podcast on life in recovery.
I can take an Uber,
If
but I
we
can't.
were professional podcasters, we would have like our own intro with like our own music. That'd be cool.
We have our own intro every day. We make an intro. It's a new intro. We're not like stuck in a rut. Let's see what kind of trouble we can get. Do you feel like you wake up and go like, I'm going to get in trouble today?
Never.
No?
That's never happened to me.
Like even if you have conversations or conflict that you have to resolve? No? You never wake up and going like, oh, what kind of trouble can we get into today?
No.
Have you ever been in trouble?
No. Do you wake up like that?
You've never gotten in trouble?
No, but I
don't think you probably ever have.
Confused by the things that you just said about like rubbing your hands together and talking about getting into trouble.
Yeah, like buying
to
something.
Resolve conflict. What?
No, but let's say you have a hard conversation with somebody. It's like,
why would you want to get into trouble with that?
No, but let's say you're going to go buy something that you probably shouldn't buy. That feels like trouble. Maybe we're going to eat something that we probably shouldn't eat. That's trouble. Like, I guess my reality, my trouble is very different than it used to be. Huh. Yeah. So I guess I never really get into trouble
You
anymore.
liked getting into trouble though.
Sometimes.
That's what we're getting at.
Sometimes
how much you liked getting into trouble.
Sometimes getting into trouble. Or like, I guess me getting into trouble now is like missing a meeting because don't want to go.
When does that happen?
I don't know. It happened the other day. It happened the other day. I canceled a meeting because I was doing something different that I didn't want to do the meeting. Yeah, so that's like my big trouble now. risky business. No, typically I don't get into trouble anymore. Yeah, feels good not being in trouble. That is the position of my heart my whole life was I'm going to get into trouble. Like for real. Like my whole life, I thought I was going to get in trouble for anything and everything that I did. And I can remember incidences in my life. And there were so many good things, but I remember getting in trouble. Every incident that I got into, I remember once I had trouble with meat and chewing. And like, I think I was likened to an owl where I would chew things, but I couldn't swallow them. And there would be like little gray balls of food. But in Indonesia, we're eating water buffalo and 80-year-old chicken. So like, obviously I'm going to have some problems, but I had problems anyway. Okay. And I remember once I'm trying to break apart my meat in my mouth and I got in trouble for it because my dad said, finish your food. And so I'm trying to, and I'm like trying to break up the food in my mouth. And he thought I was disrespecting him. Like, I'm not chewing. I'm on chew strike. And I got in so much trouble for that. But that's all I remember is getting into trouble because I had this underlying issue in my heart that probably said that I'm bad and I'm always going to get in trouble and just waiting for the hammer to drop.
So then you're saying that you just started to embrace it and that's what you would look for?
I don't know.
Because you were talking about waking up in the morning, like, let's get into trouble.
Yeah, different kind of trouble. I think I've switched gears and maybe it's the caffeine. That's probably, I'm just remembering about my heart of, I guess, being troubled in my heart, but always in a position that I'm offending authority and they're going to respond by spanking me or giving me a timeout. All right, next. That's what.
So we're gonna read a reading from an AA.
Well, the point of this is a contemplative meditation, and so we're going to take an idea out of a morning meditation and take that throughout our day.
Facing ourselves, and fear says, "You dare not look." How often I avoided a task in my drinking days just because it appeared so large. Is it any wonder, even if I have been sober for some time, that I will act the same way when faced with what appears to be a monumental job, such as a searching and fearless moral inventory of myself? What I discover after I have arrived at the other side, when my inventory is completed, is that the illusion was greater than the reality. The fear of facing myself kept me at a standstill, and until I became willing to put pencil to paper, I was arresting my growth based on an intangible. Do you know what an intangible is?
Unknown or unrecognizable?
Yeah, not a real thing.
Oh, so that was a good segue about fear, facing ourselves. I've come to learn that the inventory process in the 12-step context, confession, inventory, we're looking at our heart to see what's on the store shelves of that, and we're taking an inventory like a business would. And what I've come to realize is that if I'm acting out of self, then a part of me can be threatened or harmed, and I hold that onto resentment, but that resentment is always attached to a fear. So I can have a resentment over here, but it's a fear inside of me. And what I've come to realize doing this recovery process is that fear, where there's fear, and it's active inside of my business, my heart, is that God's perfect love isn't there. So I'm a slave. I'm being driven by the slave driver of fear and not guided by God's love. And the cool thing about God's love is that it's guiding and it's not smothering. It's not like putting a deer light in your face. Have you been drinking today, ma'am? But it leads me into the relationship and into a loving, consensual relationship where he's so kind that he brings up one fear at a time. It's not overwhelming to me. And so I think God's love lets me feel pain even 10, 15 years into recovery because I still have fears in here. And so that's why we keep doing this process.
Well, and I think a lot of this resonates
Hi, Matt.
with me not sticking to things, because when things would get hard or I would convince myself like, oh, actually, I need to go do this over here. And so I wouldn't stick with finishing something. Like it was very challenging to finish things that are hard. And it took a long time for me to realize that actually that was rooted in fear, that I actually, to complete something and actually see it through, as opposed to like moving over to the next shiny thing or shiny place, or, you know, the hope of a promise of something else over there when this has gotten really hard. That was good for me to learn.
Mm-hmm. And even going back to what I was talking about at the beginning about getting into trouble, like I've actually identified that through the process of recovery and getting to that fear of like, I'm actually not good. I'm actually a bad kid. I'm a bad person. And authority's just waiting. Like I'm just being sought out. And I found it interesting. I listened to a talk this morning and she said that alcohol and drugs were never my problem. Sobriety is my problem. And so I can take away the drugs and the alcohol and I'm worse off because I don't have a solution anymore. And I'm full of fear and tension and anxiety. And it's a horrible place to be in that container. And God has to lead us into a loving relationship. So
the codependent can really relate to that because, you know, oftentimes we get to like the end of our rope and we finally break up with the boyfriend that's wreaking all the, you know, the alcoholic boyfriend or the drug addict boyfriend or the person who's, you know, causing harm in our life. We finally end it. And then when we get away, you know, we have some quiet or calm or whatever, oh, we're even worse off. We just can't even handle it. We're
on to the next relationship.
That looked so, you know.
Yeah. And so how do we quit? We really quit, like not rock bottom isn't the goal because rock bottom is death and we keep changing our rock bottom. But the reality is we have to realize what we're doing, we're not in control of. And then we really have to have this solution of drugs, alcohol, relationships stop working. Like it actually has to stop working for us. Or that's really the best place to be for an active addict or codependent is like it actually stops working for me. The consequences are definitely outweighing the benefits and it's turning on me. And that's my experience in 2005 was like this stopped working for me. And as soon as I would drink it or snort it or smoke it or whatever I was doing, it would cause instant psychosis. And it's a horrible place to be. It's like being in hell of like, I can't like, So I think that our meditation today is, God, will you show me what fears are driving me? I don't want to be driven by a slave driver. I want God's love to lead me out of the fear. Slave driver, out of fear. And so, even message below, like, what are some of the fears that God's showing you? Maybe our prayer today is, God, will you reveal more fears and guide us into your truth? With that, we leave our time of meditation to go out throughout the day and love the world around you, and see you at noon. We have our All Addictions Recovery meeting, our LifeLab Connect meeting at noon Eastern on Zoom. And we're talking about fear today. So there's going to be a 20-minute share on fear, and then a chance to be able to participate.
It is fear.
So we will. It is fear. Today's
topic.
Oh dear. Maybe we will get in trouble.
Today's topic is fear at noon. So we'd love to see you there.
Okay. Much love. We will see you at noon.